Good afternoon, everyone. This is Kay from Spectre.ai. We're going to kick off in just 2 minutes' time. For those of you that are here, can you confirm that you can hear me clearly and also see the screen in front of you clearly, please? Excellent, everybody. That's a resounding yes. So I assume the tech is okay. Let's kick off in just 60 seconds' time, right on the hour. And I'm also aware that there's a big match today, England versus Croatia at the World Cup. So I won't keep you. We will keep this short, certainly my end of the bit. I also have here with me Hitesh, who's our Chief Marketing Officer, and Atul, and two or three other team members are there as well if you have any directed queries. However, they are doing different things at the same time, so I cannot guarantee that they will respond immediately, but please go ahead and ask the questions. Um, and at the end of the webinar, of course, as always, we will have a formal Q&A. Before I proceed, I am required to read you this disclaimer. This webinar is recorded and will be distributed in social media. It may include forward-looking statements, but these are strictly for educational purposes only and not to be deemed as investment advice. Spectre.ai, as a trading platform, is strictly closed to US citizens. The ownership of SXDT or SXUT tokens by US citizens is forbidden and against the terms and conditions of Spectre.ai. Financial trading is risky, and you may lose all of your funds invested. A recording of this webinar will be available on spectre.ai/investors. And you can contact our investor relations team at ir@spectre.ai. So, going to go over some key points, some key headline figures here that kind of sets the tone for the webinar and also the trajectory for the rest of the year. Let's start with the most important headline figure, and that's traders. The guidance for the first quarter, which was issued around 3 to 4 months ago, which is Q1 ended June, mind you, was 250 real money traders, right? The actual number is at 733 plus. There are a few more accounts which are in the process of KYC or were in the process of KYC as of book's close date around 1.5 weeks ago. And that's a delta of around 300%. So we performed 300% better than expected. This also beats, incidentally, the 500 trader forecast for the second quarter, which is ending September. In terms of the DALP, the liquidity pool has increased by around 300 ETH, which at today's prices is around $140,000, roughly in that range, from 5,000 ETH. So that's a plus 5% growth during the quarter. In terms of volumes, the total amount of volumes traded, and this excludes, of course, extraordinary DALP dividends and all those other things, just purely from trading, it's $800,000. And that would equate to roughly somewhere in the order of 1.3 to 1.5 million ETH. Now, if you actually adjust those volume figures for the number of traders on the platform and for the number of business days they've been there, because a lot of this growth has come back-ended towards the end of the first quarter. It wasn't spread out evenly. You get to a rough volume of around 250 traders. So $250 per trader per business day. And that's actually literally smack bam in line with our trader forecast in terms of volumes per trader. And it also validates partially our forecasts that we have issued because they were based on industry data over the years. So that's very good to see. Now, here's something that's pretty comical, but we're okay because we're hedging our bets. As you know, Spectre has two wallets. One is a fully decentralized wallet for the people that are all about decentralization and they don't trust the broker, they don't trust us. That's totally fine. And there you basically trade with your offsite Ethereum wallet, whichever one it is, MetaMask, MEW, and you trade directly against a decentralized liquidity pool. And those wallets are just 20 in number at the moment. So just 2% take up. An overwhelming majority of traders, all they want is a fair trading environment with fair pricing, swift withdrawals, no account managers, and a transparent, decentralized balance sheet. Unfortunately, the world of binary options doesn't provide that. The world of smart options does with us. So we think over time, the take-up will increase for these decentralized wallets. But in order for that to happen, there needs to be more scalability in the blockchain, lower gas cost, and a range of other factors, which we think will definitely happen over the next 2 to 3 years. But it's not something that will happen immediately. For SXUT, which is a very, very important part of the investment case, part of our operational story as well, the take-up factor was very strong. Amongst the active traders, it was 21%. So 21% of active traders actually went through the painstaking process of procuring SXUT tokens on a range of exchanges. We are simplifying that process in the next quarter or two, where we're creating a facility where you can literally just upgrade at a click of a button by sending ETH to us, and you will get SXUT in your account. So you don't need to purchase them on exchanges for the purposes of the Spectre platform. So we think that 20% take up should increase, possibly close to 30% over time. But for our internal projections, we're assuming that figure. In terms of dividends, we have paid in the first quarter on a weekly basis, pari passu, 400 ETH of normal dividends. The weekly run rate, as you can track every weekend, because we are, at this moment, I think the only company in the world, blockchain or not, and please do correct me if I'm wrong, that pays weekly dividends, or rewards, as we call them. The weekly run rate is around 4 to 7 ETH per week. There has been a steady growth in that figure. The growth is not linear. Unfortunately, it's not every week you get growth. You will get some down weeks followed by up weeks. The goal, of course, is for net growth on a monthly basis. Now, apart from the 400 ETH, we also have a 200 ETH plus end of year special dividend waiting, special reward. And that you can also see in the decentralized wallet where the DALP rests. You can see that the liquidity pool has grown by that much. The bulk of that growth was obviously driven by the one-off market activity dividend as part of our active participation mandate. So the DALP can invest in certain opportunities in the market when the risk reward pays out. In this case, it did very handsomely. It booked a profit of 280K or 250K, or sorry, close to 300K because there were two. And therefore, you have this special reward waiting. In terms of the number of traders that are making money, it's quite an interesting figure. We have paid out $320,000 in the first quarter as winning trades, right? So that amount of money has been paid out either to centralized or the decentralized wallets. How much of that has been withdrawn? That's a figure we can give towards the end of the year. But what's important to note is that there have been 0 fraud incidents and a couple of hundred withdrawals. No questions asked, no CD account managers, nothing. It's an algorithmic process. So where does this leave us in the kind of various growth phases? Q1 was all about the teething. We've ironed out a lot of issues. Moving forward, now we've entered the expansion phase. We delivered 733 traders versus an expectation of 250. The Q2 forecast was 500 as per our guidance issued on our website a few months ago. We've surpassed that as well in Q1. We're not issuing a guidance for traders for this quarter, but we are comfortable in saying that we will most likely beat the 500 figure, right? Importantly, cassette, which as you can see here with the first phase, looks like it should be out in the next 2 to 3 weeks. It's already finished. It's complete. We're testing it now internally and with some of our testing team. And we will, of course, endeavor to get it out within 2 weeks, but it should be out. Now, cassette is very important for those of you that are new because what this allows traders to do is to come to our system, whether it's Dapverse or Spectre, and they don't need to go and open an Ethereum wallet and procure ETH at some dingy exchange and then send the ETH over and all that. All they have to do is they can swipe their credit card after opening an account at our partner company, Uphold, which is a US regulated exchange. And when they swipe, their money is converted automatically into fiat, but also either into Ethereum or gold or metal or different metals or different cryptocurrencies, some of the main ones. And that then gets wired automatically to their Spectre trading account, any amount they wish, and they can trade with that, right? So this has been a stopgap to adoption. The fact that people need to understand what ETH is and all that, cassette will make life much easier. Okay, and then we expect in Q2 and Q3 our full-fledged IB program to take shape. By the way, that's already happening, so we're ahead of schedule on that. The feeder is already in place. The smart CFDs is something that we're currently working on. We're trying to make these as I would say compliant, but also as unique, because we have the advantage of being an offshore brokerage. We have the advantage of being more creative in what we can offer. Very important to note is that we're not about the leverage. So these are unleveraged CFDs. These are safer instruments than what you would find out there. These will be out somewhere between, I would say, the month of August and September. If I had to err on the side of caution, I would say September. And with Dapverse, the way things are looking, we are 6 months ahead of schedule. Originally, Dapverse was supposed to be out in March of next year. We think the way things look right now, we can possibly put out a beta at the end of August, early September. And in terms of the white labels, which is a big part of our growth at Spectre, specifically the financial trading platform, that's on track as well. We're looking there possibly for a Q3, early Q4 release on that product. And that product will allow business owners around the world, especially those with large communities, whether those are MLM communities or trading groups. We have over 100, 150 affiliates. Hitesh will give you the right number now, but that channel is growing for us. And there are a lot of people that don't want to send traffic to Spectre and would rather own their own version of Spectre, their own branding, better payment terms, all of that, better commission rates, and that's what the white label opportunity provides. So we reiterate our guidance. By the way, we have, as you may have seen in the press release last week, we haven't upgraded our guidance despite having a better Q1. The main reason is we're risk averse. We'd like to see how the next 9 months pan out for business, for growth, for take up, for rollout. It is worth noting that there's an absolute shit show in the cryptocurrency market right now. Projects are getting murdered. The ICO projects many of them are down 90% from the ICO price, and many are failing to actually deliver on their promises. Touch wood, so far, we have been very steadfast in our delivery, specifically with regards to our roadmap. And of course, very importantly, we're actually paying rewards and dividends. Ultimately, that's all that matters. So anything we say here can obviously be cross-checked and channel checked by you with the weekly rewards, right? Because if the weekly rewards are not keeping a pace with our promises, that's a great check for investors to do. But if what we're saying here is actually translating to volume growth, DALP growth, uh, dividend per token growth, or reward per token growth, then it's a vindication of the business model, right? So we've already validated the business model. We've paid out a tremendous amount of money, absolutely huge amount of money in the first quarter. I don't know any ICO project. Maybe there's one or two um, that have been doing that so regularly. But we think that is just the beginning. And this is a good segue into kind of what lies ahead, because a lot of you are new. A lot of you are asking, okay, where does Spectre actually, what is Spectre? Half of you are probably very new. And where does it fit into the whole cryptocurrency landscape, right? All these cryptocurrency companies, they want to build their own skyscrapers. So where does the Spectre one fit in, right? And for a lot of you, you've heard terms like Dapverse and moon cases and Moonfolio and Terra and SXDT and DALP and Dapverse and all these things. And you're probably wondering, what is it all? How does it actually all get put together? How does it actually all work? And I'm going to spend a bit of time explaining this. So we are a protocol play. We're effectively the DALP. We're the team behind the DALP, the Decentralized Autonomous Liquidity Pool, which is a few $1 million in size, so it has ample liquidity. And most of its occupied liquidity in the form of primary and tertiary liquidity is serving a range of applications. Now, the one current live application is Spectre. That's the one that Hitesh and Atul are scaling up. And there's a range of applications in development. A lot of you have seen the screenshots and also the business model discussions we've had with a lot of you for all of these that you see on the screen and when they'll kind of come to fruition. Also, the DALP will invest from time to time reserve liquidity, unutilized liquidity, into active and passive participation mandates. So, for example, the DALP booked a 300 or so ETH profit even before we launched our platform, and then it booked another $150,000 profit based on trading gains made in the market. It was a very low risk, low reward type of trading. So Spectre, everything we've discussed so far, all the dividends that have been paid out, most of them, not all, and the weekly kind of 5, 6, 7 ETH that you're getting, we believe that Spectre, scaled up in the next 3 to 5 years, will or should be getting to somewhere between 50, 30 to 60 to 70 ETH. Average point being around 50 ETH a week. Subsequently, as Moonfolio, the portfolio manager tool, and Dapverse and Mooncases and Moonwire and our investment activities roll out, as they grow, as they scale up, we think some of the major apps, which is Dapverse, which is a direct competitor to iTunes and Google Play Store. But the unique thing it has, of course, is the DALP backing it. We think these applications together, including Spectre, can generate, certainly that's what we're aiming for, somewhere in the order of 300 ETH per week, which equates to around, if I'm not wrong, 15,000 ETH a year, right? That's a very, very, very significant reward generation for token holders, right? And then we think this is something that we're aiming for to bring forth over the next 3 years, 3 to 4 years, in that range. It does take time. These levels of profits is not something we're going to achieve this year, right? And I think it's very important that we make that clear for those of you that are here for a quick buck or for a quick spin. It just won't happen. Businesses certainly of this magnitude take time to build, but the early signs, as we see with Spectre, is that the business model is validated. We've already started paying back dividends, and the team is very serious, in terms of not missing roadmap targets, under promising, over delivering. So we aim to continuously do that. One small point I want to make is for those of you that are still asking, what is the DALP? This is a pool of decentralized liquidity which lies on the blockchain, the Ethereum blockchain, and it acts as counterparty when other people are not there to take your trade or to take the opposite side of your bet. So any event-driven or probabilistic outcome type of bet that you're taking, whether it's inside a game, right? Let's say you're a fantastic first-person shoot 'em up guy, and you think you can take, you can have 7 kills in a row. You can make that bet against the DALP, right? Because the DALP will say, okay, based on your historical track record, I don't think you can do that. If you're able to do that, I'll give you 80% payout once you achieve that. So it's algorithmic unlocks of real capital, wagered capital, across a range of industries, whether it's gaming or trading, as we've validated now here with smart options. But it can be any application, right? Now, as our library of applications grows, the question, of course, is where does SXUT fit in? 20% of traders have upgraded their privileges on Spectre. And right now, it's still very difficult to get your hand on SXUT. It's not an easy process. It's an esoteric process, right? Horrible exchanges, poor security in the cryptocurrency marketplace. You can't trust anybody. So we're obviously bridging the gap. We're creating a facility where you would literally purchase an SXUT from us, right? So we remove that headache. However, we think conservatively, let's say the take-up ratio remains at 20% at Spectre, Moonfolio, maybe just 5%, because there it's not really the target clientele that would like to upgrade their privileges. In Dapverse, we think there's a huge potential for SXUT, as we see with Spectre. Certainly 20% is a fair assumption from the active gamers inside Dapverse. Many of them want to get an edge, better payouts, bigger trade size, bigger bet size within the games, more levels, more cosmetic upgrades. All of these things the SXUT will enable. And the same holds true for Moon cases, for Moonwire, and other applications. So that's how effectively, once these apps grow and they start to generate weekly dividends and rewards, the SXUT will be a key part of the story as well. We're coming to the end of the webinar because I want to have time for Q&A. I'm just going to show you a few screens. Some of you have already seen some of these screens. What you see here is our first series of DALP games that will appear on Dapverse or outside of Dapverse, but connected to the DALP. You have Crypto Run here, which is a first-person runner game, kind of like Sonic the Hedgehog, but with a twist. You have a tower defense game to your bottom left, known as Crypto Defense. Some very sexy graphics there, some very interesting ideas happening there as well. You have the world's first pool game, multiplayer pool. And it fully works. It's fully tested as well. We're integrating it right now. You can challenge other cryptocurrency people around the world. You can have friendly tournaments. You can wager any amount of funds up to a certain limit ahead of every match there as well. So it'll be validating. It'll be actually bringing to the market very new concepts because this has never been done before. Mind you, in-app purchases have been restricted generally to cosmetic upgrades, right? If you have a pay-to-win model, it kind of doesn't work. It's not fair because only the rich people can buy the biggest upgrades and, kick the poor people's asses. That's not the model we're following. We're actually taking a completely different take on in-app monetization for games. And the response has been fierce. I mean, I am literally bombarded. I'm sure some of you here on the webinar, 8 to 12 times a day via email, via telephone, on Telegram, asking from developers, rookies, but also proper development houses. How do we connect? Where's the API? Tell us more about the DALP. This is revolutionary, etc. So it's very, very exciting stuff. What we're doing. Obviously, these games are, kiddish. They aren't games like Call of Duty or something like that. But we want to create an environment that allows for developers to dream, right? Exactly what iTunes did for the millions of developers around the world. To create and unleash this new era of game creation with the added angle of betting inside games. And with that, so that what you've seen is so far the game side of Dapverse, but we have teams working now on the sports betting side, which again all connects to the DALP, right? Ultimately, this all feeds into the DALP. That's the kind of unifying thread. You have here the Spectre new UI to your right. This is going to be launched in September. A very professional team is working on that. It's night and day relative to what you see in the UI today. We have Moonfolio, which the app is now nearing completion as well. So that should go live soon. That's a portfolio management tool. And we have Moon Cases, which is a gambling play on the cryptocurrency market. And obviously, these projects will have their own formal launches. We will be having parts of our marketing team assigned to this to scale it up dramatically, because ultimately it is about hitting targets. So that's enough from me for now. I'm sure you have a lot of questions, and feel free to ask these now as well. If I miss something, or if we can't answer it right now, you can contact us at support@spectre.ai or ir@spectre.ai. Okay, let's start off with the first questions. Good. I have been corrected by Bart. Thank you, Bart. Bart is saying, FYI, Bankera, a bank for the blockchain era, is also paying out weekly dividends this week already for the 44th or 45th time. It is based in Lithuania. Without knowing them, I would have to say that's fantastic. The cryptocurrency space needs more projects that return capital back to the wider community that is invested in them. More of that and less of the bullshit, I think, would be really good for Ethereum prices as well, and good for the crypto space in general. Okay, see a question from Cameron K. Can you recommend a website where US citizens can go and create some offshore entity that will enable us to trade on Spectre? Cameron, I legally couldn't recommend you that. I'm very sorry about that. And we are pretty strict about ensuring US citizens don't trade on Spectre or hold our tokens, both the tokens, or withdraw any rewards. This has to do with the SEC stance right now on how they wish to protect Americans from scams around the world and in the US. And as per very, very serious legal counsel, both in the US, our legal team actually is based, headquartered in the US, and here in Europe, we have received firm red light on advising on this or even onboarding any Americans. It is a shame. I also think it's almost pathetic. This is a country which is technologically the world's most advanced. It also has the biggest GDP. So we really hope that it also becomes an innovator in the space and approaches projects which are actually doing good by investors. Because it's 50% of the smart options market is in the US, and we can't tap them because of this. Okay, in terms of the leaks, I can't give any leaks here. I know a lot of you want sort of video leaks and all that. I totally appreciate the enthusiasm. The day it's ready, we'll just launch by surprise. Dapverse will be ready with all the games. You can go in and play them. We're not so much about the the hyping and all that crap, the videos and the coffee campaigns and the cookies and all that stuff. We're all product guys here. Once it's ready, we're just going to get our marketers on it and scale it up. And feel free to play it. Sebastian is asking, can you provide some information on the Terra project? Let me put it this way: you can ask me questions, and then I can say yes or no if that's okay. Mainly because there are a lot of competitors on this call. Okay, a question from Nicholas. Nicholas is asking, what is the timeline for the first release of the dApps? So the first dApp that will go out, first Dapverse, first app inside Dapverse, we're looking at first week of September. if we get lucky, second or third week of August. And so this will be a fully working version of Dapverse with KYC and on their uh, Crypto Blast, which is the game with the crazy clown that you run around dodging bullets. And it will be also gamified and also, of course, DALPed, which means you can make bets. You'll have DALP missions. You'll be able to make bets ahead of each mission, how much you want to earn based on how you perform. After that, September, October, November, we'll probably get 5 or 6 games out in a series. And then there are some bigger boutiques that are raising money, a few $100,000 to create, proper first-person shoot 'em ups that will connect to the DALP. We think those will probably be June of next year, if not a bit later. A good question from Dominda. How do you plan to promote games? So again, it's difficult for me to get into competitive and promoting strategy here, mainly because it serves nobody. You are the investor. We want to tell you, but at the same time, this is a public call, so giving away our strategy is not that wise. But we certainly have a marketing plan for that. And what Hitesh is going to do with Atul when Dapverse is out is we'll hold a similar webinar like we had for Spectre's marketing in February, I think, or March for Dapverse. And I think that would be the appropriate time to give you more color on that. Good question from Waiting for a Name. Will we be updating the current forecast model to be in line with the current trajectory? No, we won't be doing that at this stage. Okay, no to Chris. Hi, Chris. See a question from Loris. Any chance that we can get SXDT UT easier? Let's say using fiat. SXUT, yes, because you'll be purchasing from us. As a trader, you can procure those from us shortly, and you'll be able to use those to upgrade. In terms of speculative purchases, you have to be KYC'd on our upcoming exchange. As you know, we're engineering our own exchange. That's around 9 weeks away. And that's a full-fledged exchange. I think it has fiat integration as well. So you will be, in theory, able to swipe fiat and purchase tokens. Don't quote me on that just yet. I'll know closer to the time, but yes. In terms of SXDT, look, during the token sale, we made it very clear that it is a security, although so is our utility token, and every single token out there is a security. I find it comical that people try and, pick apart at it and try to find reasons why utility tokens are not securities. I find utility tokens riskier securities, to be honest. But anyway, getting back to your question, so we are creating right now a regulated token exchange for just our tokens. It will be the world's only exchange that just houses our own token sale tokens. It will be highly secure with a triple audit layer. It will be regulated. I already said that. And of course, very importantly, good customer support, right? And so you can actually ask questions, no security incidences and all that crap. A very safe place to trade our tokens and with high volume. Because what we're going to be doing is, as our token volumes increase on this exchange, we're going to be withdrawing our tokens from the other crap exchanges that they're currently on, if that makes sense. Thank you, Malgorzata, for your kind feedback. Yeah, it's a very good question. So Malgorzata is saying that some of our affiliates have been categorizing us as a binary options platform. And we are not a binary options platform, and you're absolutely right, we are not. If you look at the ESMA guidelines, the recent parameters that have been published after the ESMA ban went through, one of the key wherewithals that makes a financial asset a binary option is that it's settled in cash, along with, of course, the expiry and all of that. We're not settled in cash. Even after cassette, all the settlement takes place in ETH. Ethereum is not cash, not even close, right? So by the textbook definition, it's not cash. That's the one thing. The second thing is within the next 4 weeks, we are adding the ability for you to recover up to 75% of your capital. When you lose, you can lose 99% of your trade value allocated to that trade. So in a binary option, you lose 100%. With us, you can lose 99% if you so wish. But there's a slider where you can crank it up to 75% capital protection, which means if you lose, you've only lost 25% of your capital in that trade. That's the first time that's ever happened. Also, very importantly, that also means that the outcome is not um, binary in the sense that you lose all of your capital if you lose, if that makes sense. And last but not least, the expiries, you can actually choose if you want them to be, if you want to close your trade mid-expiry. So you're not forced to hold the trade until the end. So this early close option, which we're using a Black-Scholes model, a derivative of the Black-Scholes model, will allow you to make some money. Let's say you've had a great move, it's gone in your favor, it's up 60 pips. You took a Euro USD call 60 minutes and it's up 60 pips. There's no way on earth that this trade is going to lose. And so instead of waiting it out, you still have 20 minutes to go and you earning 75% on that trade, you can actually close it early and make 70% or 65%, if that makes sense. And the reverse holds true as well for losing scenarios. So because of these three engineering differences that we have in our platform, we're not a binary option, but not even close, certainly after the latter two go in. So that's a very important thing to note. Okay, see a question from Matt Grocott. Yeah, good question, Matt. Matt is asking, can you shed light on the state of existing strategic partnerships? Is there anything new in the works? Okay. Let me be blunt about this. I don't know what channel feedback you've received from other ICOs, etc. Based on the ones that we are dealing with from the token sale days, most of them, I won't say all, but I would say maybe 98 out of 100 are absolute scams. The only difference between them and BitConnect is that you're going to find out they're a scam over the next 2 years, because right now they still have money to do all sorts of hype and marketing and all that shit. Excuse my French. We cannot partner with any company in the blockchain space going forward unless it meets our due diligence criteria. You will remember how adamant I was about not listing our token on many exchanges, many of which, by the way, either ended up going bust, having massive volume-related scandals, or security breaches. This was back in January, right? So I'm telling you, the same person that told you that is telling you, forget the strategic partnerships. This is a non-strategic, asymmetric place with a bunch of freaks that have too much capital. And ICO winter is coming in a very, very dark and dreary way over the next 2 years. So there's no point in us partnering with these companies. We have been approached by many companies, mind you. Hitesh can give you more color on that. And yes, there are select opportunities, but this is the most important thing. All we care about is SXDT and SXUT growth. Think of us like single cellular organisms that all they want to do is procreate, feed, and grow. All we care about is how many traders come on our platform and that they receive a good service and a fair trading environment, right? So we will only enter partnerships that are selfishly good for us. We're not going to give any inch, right? Selfishly good. So we're very careful with that. I'm not going to mention too many names at this moment, but what we can say is that a lot of people look for marketing opportunities during token sales, and they form partnerships just for that reason, but they have no intention of sending users, right? No intention of sending users. So we're very, very careful on that front. Now, in terms of non-cryptocurrency projects, i.e. the legitimate world, right? The real world, there we have a lot of opportunities. There have been a lot of strides made on the affiliate side, on the IB side, a lot of scaling opportunities. If you're interested, you can send us an email, and we are happy to kind of run a KYC on you, due diligence you to make sure that you're an investor, and we're happy to give you more color on that. In the crypto space, I'm very disillusioned, very unimpressed by almost everything I've seen here. Okay, see a question from Domindu. How do you plan to attract EU traders to the platform as they're finding for new binary platforms due to ESMA ban? So here's the thing. We don't offer binary options. 4 weeks from now, strategically, or technically, we won't be meeting any of the ESMA requirements. Europeans can find us on the net. We are in many smart options forums. When we launch CFDs, we'll be all over the FX forums, and they're welcome to trade. We're not going to actively advertise to them. We don't want to get into a pissing contest with the ESMA, but we're offshore, and they can trade with us very safely. But we're not actually actively going out to them. We're getting a lot of requests. After what's happened to ESMA, can we join your platform? How do we trade? And we just send them to the demo account first at the moment. I think, since spot option is dead and all these, the binary sort of cavalry of yesteryear is gone. There's only very few places, and there's a lot of European demand, so it'll find its way. Question from Tim V. Is there any plan to offer games such as Candy Crush or Fortnite where a pay model exists, but not necessarily to win money from the DApp? Yeah, absolutely. So that the conditional betting algorithm that the DApp is bringing and the conditional liquidity, that's one thing. But of course, there's your traditional paid to the cosmetic, not the pay to win or the pay to play, but mainly just the in-game in-app purchases where you can upgrade the way you look, anything which doesn't impact your ability to actually get an edge in the game. That is something that would be 100% margin, zero risk for the DALP, and money would go to the DALP and thus SXDT. Okay, so great question from Loris. Considering the amount of new smart contract protocol platforms in the hell market we're going through, what if Ethereum blows up? This is a question that really something we worry about. Not because it'll hurt the business model per se, because we have ample reserves, that can see us through decades. That's not the problem, but it would really be it would be a huge irritant factor if Ethereum went to $50, because the value of the DALP just becomes that much lower. So we're always analyzing the market. Ethereum has some big things to push through this year, sharding and other scalability upgrades, and we think that will happen. We think out of all the projects we've seen, Ethereum has, at least certainly, is the most tried and tested. EOS just isn't, especially after their debut, right? I mean, you can tell me what you want, but so there are a lot of projects, even like Radix and others, that believe they're the next Ethereum killer, and that may be possible, and we're keeping abreast of that. For us, here's the most important thing: our liquidity pool in dollar terms should remain secure, right? So for us now, the question is: do we hedge now? Do we hedge the pool completely and dollarize it, and keep some menial amount, some 1,000 ETH, in immediate liquidity to service all these transactions across Dapverse and Spectre? Or do we wait to see if it gets back to 1,000 and then we hedge? Because we're definitely going to hedge, right? We're not sitting here like freaks waiting for it to go to 4,000, because we don't think it's going to happen. So we're monitoring the situation very carefully. The thing not to do, and let me be very honest with you, is to go to another blockchain right now, because Ethereum is far more experienced. And even if there is a game-changing blockchain out there, they still have to go through all the motions that Ethereum went through over the last 2.5 years. They have to go through their fair series of hacks. They have to go through maturity. Their wallets need to be safe. So much needs to happen for them to get to the level Ethereum was at, right? Why should we get into that right now and put our trading platform at risk? So the answer for us: do we go full fiat and tokenize dividends, or do we remain true to Ethereum and see how it goes? And for now, we're going to go with the latter. But it's a very, very fair question. Nicholas was asking, any more active or passive participations that have yielded for the DALP? Yes, there is an active, a passive participation that has yielded a uncrystallized gain of 40 ETH. It's around $22,000 on a bridge opportunity that the DALP invested in, and we made 40% ROI on that. That was good. The only thing is that we need ETH to hit around 570 in order for us to unlock that and pay it out as a weekly special div, or add it to the DALP for end of year or whatever. So that's when we complete the loop, so to put it. It's basically an FX gain, if you want to call it that. And in order for us to crystallize that gain, that would need to happen. If we did it now, it would be smaller. It would be maybe a 10 ETH gain. So a question from Lois. Can you explain how we can use SXUT on the various projects? Like you upgrade for higher payouts, more expiries, and things like that on Spectre trading platform, you'll be able to get higher payouts, more levels, cooler items, cooler weapons, things like that in the various Dapverse games. Andreas BTC is asking, will Terra provide substantial amount of rewards to the SXDT holders? Going back to this slide, Andreas, in terms of proportion, I can't give you absolute figures. As you know, we're very conservative and we don't want to overpromise. But we think that Dapverse will be roughly 4 times the size of Spectre, 4 to 5 times the size of Spectre at scale. And at scale is something that will happen 3 to 5 years. Neil Johnson is asking, is football coming home? Yes, Neil, football is coming home. We are, sports betting is going to be a big part of Dapverse. Stage 2, sports betting will be added early next year, whereas the gaming bit is happening this year. And that includes esports, just to be clear. Okay, see a question from Murray Higgins. The Dapverse is news to you. Is it an investable opportunity? Yes, Murray. So the best thing to do is to go to Spectre.ai investors and download our media pack. There, our head of investor relations, Ian, has given a very good snapshot of the entire investment case. Do your own due diligence. Make sure you go through the risks in the white paper as well, and ask us a lot of questions so you're fully comfortable with what Dapverse is and all of that. Okay, good question from Cameron K. I am unclear. Are the games part of Spectre or separate? Just to be clear, so the screen that you see in front of you, Cameron, you own SXDT most likely, I take it, and SXUT. The volumes generated in the DALP pay out the dividends on the SXDT. The apps that generate the volumes are Spectre, Moonfolio, Dapverse, Mooncase, all of that. So everything that is being built out ultimately translates to volumes for the DALP, which translates to SXDT, token holder rewards. So Spectre is one of these opportunities, and ultimately you are a token holder of the SXDT, if that makes sense. A question from Tim, is a casino in the works? No, Tim, it is not. Question from Bob Lung, an update on the DApp drop shipping opportunity. I will leave that to Hitesh. Tim is asking, can you elaborate on crypto cases? Not at this stage, we cannot. Maureen is asking, when gaming cases? We think around 6 months from now, we can probably produce a beta. Domindu is asking, will there be in-app purchases? Yes, absolutely. Not in Crypto Blast, but in Crypto Run there will be. That's our first in-house 3D title. Loris is asking, it's awesome hearing that you're admitting we are security. Yeah, absolutely. We are 100% a security and we're very proud of it. We want everyone to know that we're a security. Okay, Steve Martin, will the games be playable for free for practice? Yeah, Steve, there's always a demo version, right? All our products have demo versions. So you are playing gamey games, right? Inside Telegram, they're all demo games. You can't make money. We'll have the same thing. In fact, we're launching our own competitor to gamey very soon inside Telegram. Um, Sorry, I take that back. It's not very soon. The work on it has begun this week, so expect it to be launched over the next 3 months at some point. Those games will just be advertising material for the actual dAppverse, because Telegram has 100 million monthly active users. So we want to let those people know about dAppverse, right? And what better way than to create our own shitty games? By shitty games, I'm talking about the stuff that you see on Telegram, which are very fun, but you can't really earn with them, and then get them over to dAppverse. And then, of course, um, keep using that as a funnel. Okay, question from Dominic. Is Mooncases only going to be focused on ETH? No. So Mooncases is still in the formation phase. The primary method of transaction is ETH, like with Spectre. But why limit ourselves, right? There's a giant fiat world out there. Let's embrace it. We all love fiat. Come on, right? See a question from Dumindu Shukla. Will there be an affiliate program for the DEX? Not really, no. Our DEX is going to be, kind of like Thomas the Tank Engine. Just kind of goes, it allows people to trade SXDT, SXUT safely, securely with good volumes. If things go well, we may add other tokens, but we're not an exchange. That's just not our trajectory. It's the most boring business model on this planet. If things take off with the exchange, if we see traction, we get a lot of requests from other safe, dividend-paying projects, serious projects, then we will add them. But whether we're going to have an affiliate program for the DEX, I most likely have to say we probably won't. Question from Maximilian Kempa. Will all games be played in browser, or how is this managed? Some will be WebGL based browser. The high spec ones will be desktop based. So you download them on your OS X or PC because they really use the gaming card, the 3D card, the GPU in your machine. The web-based ones are more light. Some will be Telegram based, and most will be mobile based. Okay, so I see a question from Ebin Edgar. Okay, can you briefly explain what factors will drive up the value of SXUT, both short and long term? Yes, I can do that, Ibn. So, short term, the value of SXUT is gradually going to be driven up. And again, I want to say I don't want to give investment advice here. That doesn't mean you guys should go out and buy it. I'm saying this is the plan. We are going to commence purchasing SXUT for strategic reasons. We have the SXUT buyback program as per our mandate. That's a small thing. However, 20% is good take up, right? And that's given it's so difficult to procure SXUT. So we're creating a facility, a bridge facility, where you purchase it directly from us in order to unlock privileges on the various dApps, whether it's Spectre or the others. So when we buy, we obviously buy with interest, amounts of 50K, 100K dollars, things like that. And these are decent chunks for a low liquid token. And then we hold them, not with the view to sell them on the marketplace to make profit. They're not speculative, they're strategic. We sell them to users of the actual platform, if that makes sense. For the share buyback, for the token buyback, again, we purchase those not with a view to make a speculative investment, but to buy back and cancel them. So those two factors will mean reducing supply. More users means more demand, driven by more dApps, more take up. And so hypothetically, if supply is diminishing, but you're getting more users demanding that XQT, that puts an upward draft on prices. Question from Chris. Any timeline when you will have A-book Forex trading? The answer to that is yes. This will be probably middle of next year. It's not a priority for us right now, although in Europe it has been shot to pieces by the ESMA rules, right? So our smart CFDs, which are pretty unique by structure, it could be interesting. But let's put this: we have so much on our plate right now, yielding stuff, that we'd like to get this out first, and then we'll hit the traditional A book. Because remember, that won't be ETH based. There will be no decentralization. It's purely centralized. Question from Ravi. Will the rewards portal also use cassette for exchanging ETH into your local currency? Not at first, but depending on user demand, if people like cassette and they say, hey, you got to put it there, then we can certainly look into engineering it. Thank you, Chris, for the feedback. Patty is saying the fiat-based non-crypto possibility to use Spectre Dapverse. Can you give further update and maybe a time frame for that release? Yeah, so you're 100% right. Why limit Dapverse to the crypto world, right, which is ailing? We're going to go for the fiat world, so cassette will be used there, hopefully right at launch. If not, then shortly, maybe 1 or 2 months after that. But the big opportunity for Dapverse is in the fiat space. Louis B says, Kay, you said that ICO winter is coming. What makes you think the most used platform Ethereum to promote all those scammy ICOs isn't going down as well? Well, here's the thing. You need 2 or 3 good projects to become unicorns or to really see a lot of traction. And that's enough for people to say, okay, Ethereum is not to blame for this bag of shit that has come into here, right? The crappy teams that have bypassed venture capital, the gatekeepers of capital. Venture capital has been traditionally, they have been the gatekeepers of capital, almost too much, right? But ICOs have made it so easy for any guy off the street to raise millions last year, not this year anymore, because investors have wisened up. What we don't want is when ICO winter does strike, and strike it will, is for people to lay blame to Vitalik and Ethereum. Ethereum is beautiful. Ethereum has allowed a project like this to happen, which pays out weekly rewards. It's decentralized, it's multi-sector, it's diversified income stream, passive. Something like this is a family office wet dream, right? Hypothetically, again, I'm not giving investment advice. Ethereum is a fantastic, highly futuristic way for companies, especially when DAO-based funding cycles kick in, where only when roadmap milestones are met, certain amount of funding is let loose to the management team. When we move to that sort of DAO-based token sale model, which will happen in the next 3 years for transparency, I actually think the traditional fiat way for startups getting funded with friends, family, and fools, Series A, Series B, Series C, and then the eventual exit, that's archaic. It's dead. Why do you want to pay dividends just once a year when you can pay them weekly, right? So when the regulations catch up, when people actually realize just how beautiful Ethereum is, yeah, okay, the gas right now sucks. It's not that scalable. But again, look at the first airplanes that flew. You remember the Wright brothers, right? I would never get on any airplane made by any of the Wright brothers. But they're the people that made flight possible. However, if you look at the iterations that came after that, right? I mean, if you look at Facebook today versus Facebook in its infancy, you look at Twitter today, it's come a long way. The same way I look at Ethereum and I say, look, it will survive ICO winter. I personally believe Ethereum will, because I trust the team. I believe that the person heading up Ethereum is nothing short of a genius, right? And you can never count out a genius. And the team is very well equipped. I think there's a lot of bullshit teams out there, a lot of scam teams. I won't mention names, that think they're the next Ethereum, but they've failed at the very early steps of proving your use case. Ethereum has proven that it's a very, very powerful, viable funding model. That in itself, it deserves a lot of kudos for that. But it's also proven that the smart contract capability that is built on it, and Solidity, which is the framework which allows developers to create a range of applications, not just for funding, just show how multifaceted it is as a framework as well. No other blockchain does it or has proven it to this extent. So I think all these factors will allow investors to look through that, right? Because ultimately, there's going to be miscreants in every industry, right? If you have, for example, a bad airline that doesn't meet international air travel standards, right? From some shitty island, let's say, and it crashes each time it goes up. Do you blame Boeing because that airline, sorry, bought Boeings, or do you blame Airbus, or do you blame the pilots? It's the same thing here. I don't think the protocol is to blame. I see a question from Ravi. How many users are currently using the demo accounts in the trading platform? I don't have that information. If I had to guess, I'd say maybe 100 or 200 or so. Maureen is asking when call on duty on Dapverse. I think we're a few years away from that, Maureen. I think these big companies are making so much money, we don't have a chance in hell to get them over. What we do have, however, is to create our own, cute competitors in our own cute little space, which can still, it's such a big market, it's such a massive market, still allow Dapverse to generate considerable tokens. So I think we need to have realistic targets, but we can see, we can see how things go. You never know how things cascade. Chris is asking, when will we offer SXUT in-house? How will price be determined? Okay, it's market price. It's a very good question. It's a fantastic question, actually. We have an exchange. That exchange obviously has buyers and sellers, so we'll take that market price. And of course, we will use certain exchanges like Bbox as well. There's no reason to remove it from a relatively, and I do say relatively with great care, relative decent exchange like Bbox. We're gonna use those, and then we'll have an average bid-ask price. Yeah, I mean, Loris is essentially, Loris asked a question about Ethereum, and she's saying, why are you not talking about your own blockchain? Here's the thing. If we're going to create a blockchain, we want to create the best blockchain ever. And right now, we'd like to deliver this part of our roadmap first to show to token holders that how serious we are about returning capital and return ROI, both capital appreciation and yield. Once we have that, we can then talk about other blockchains and all of that. R&D is working on a concept for the last 3 months. It's called Smart Link. And it's if you look at the Gossip protocol, if you look at sharding, if you look at the various permutations and combinations that these different projects have in place, like Power, which is a new blockchain which seems interesting, Redx, and of course EOS. If you look at ours, if you look at SmartLink, it's so out of the box. It's not even a blockchain, but it does have a consensus algorithm. It's very unique. But the last thing I want to do right now is go down that sort of, Spectre has a blockchain, etc. Because realistically, we just don't have the will to compete at this moment in that sphere. In the long run, once we've met these targets, 2 to 3 years from now, yes, we can certainly, and hopefully by then it'll be done, right? So we are working on it, but it's just not something I'm so comfortable in talking about right now. Terra is in Dapverse. Just to be clear, everything is linked to the DALP. That's all that matters to you, all of you. Moonfolio, moon cases, these things won't be in Dapverse. They may be. We'll decide later. But ultimately, they all feed money to the DALP, right? The DALP is like Jabba the Hutt. I actually think every cryptocurrency project should pay homage to the DALP by paying it a weekly fee. In return, the DALP should do nothing but in return, it should receive for doing nothing a fee from every project. Is that a fair bargain? What do you guys think? Vishan, yes, we are commencing the 3% buyback shortly. But again, just to be clear, we will do that at opportune times. Question from Dumindu. Dumindu, this is a good question. So what about paying SXUT to unlock the privileges instead of holding them? The problem with this is then the DALP ingests the SXUT, and then the DALP is comprised of the SXUT, and we don't want that. There are a lot of distortionary effects. I have spoken at great length about these during the token sale. I think I also had a discussion with the celebrity. What is his name again? He's the crypto celebrity, Reggie Middleton, with his project. In their model, I think you actually spend their token to unlock privileges. I could be wrong at that time. Our model is very different. There's also exchange rate distortionary effects that can create can wreak havoc on the business model. So we're not going to go down that route. If you all want me to discuss it at length, I can, but for the purposes of time, I would say we don't discuss that here. Tim B is asking, will sports betting be P2P versus the house or both? Both. Murray is asking, so being an SXDT holder, I will benefit from Dapverse. And by investing in Dapverse, I'll be buying SXDT tokens? No. Murray, when you purchase SXDT tokens after doing due diligence and understanding the risks and ensuring that you're not American or from any of the restricted regions, you can hold these tokens and all the dApps, the decentralized applications, like the ones stored inside Dapverse or Moonfolio, Mooncases, or Spectre, they all channel volumes to the DALP, which pays out rewards or rewards or devols to the SXDT every week. You, as a potential investor, procure the SXDT on exchanges. You don't invest in Dapverse directly. AJ is asking, is Spectre open to a buyout? Always. Vishan Reddy, hey Kate, are you buying back? Yes, as already responded. Paul Watkin is asking, will we be able to stake SXDT for Spectre blockchain? No, Paul. Robert Lewis is asking, will the US market become part of Spectre trading and dividend payout platform in the near future? Okay, Robert, we would love it to. We really wanted to, but they don't want to. So the SEC is not open to it. I think we're a few years away from that, and as a result, we cannot do anything to anger the SEC, if that makes sense. So neither the dividend payouts nor the Spectre trading platform nor any of the dApps will be open to the US. Yes, as a game player, as a gamer, there has been some changes in US legislation recently which allow on a state level, not on a federal level, certain states are allowing gambling, betting, sports betting, and all those things. Our legal team is looking into it. When the opportunity presents itself, parts of Dapverse may be open to US citizens. However, there's a careful bridge that we need to build between how the volumes of those traders ultimately translate to SXDT token holders. But the answer is the landscape is changing. There are some positive signs. So we're not saying no for forever, but we're saying certainly for the next 2 to 3 years, I don't see Americans really being part of the story here inside Dapverse, inside the DALP spectrum, unfortunately. Of course, if the SEC sees this webinar and they're watching this now and they want to have a reasonable discussion with us at a table, so we can show them that actually there are very, very legitimate, very serious projects out there that are good for American consumers, then we're very happy to do that. But at this stage, the answer is no. Lois is asking, will Cassette give options for other SXDT holders to sell? Or where do the tokens Cassette sells come from? Cassette doesn't sell tokens, Lois. Cassette just allows you to swipe your credit card at Uphold and convert it to ETH and move it to our various platforms that use ETH or Bitcoin or whichever other currencies we accept. Okay, Christoph is asking, will it be possible in the future to directly convert the dividends into SXDT? Possibility, yes. Probability, not in the next 2 years. Tim V, good question. Has the team considered sought out partnerships with any major gaming companies? The answer is yes. Okay, Chris is asking, sorry, Homie is asking, do you think it will be possible to generate 1K ETH in dividends per week in the next 5 years? Our soft target, that's not a forecast, our soft target is around 300 ETH a week, which is monumental in terms of annual dividends. It's almost 15,000 ETH, or dollar equivalent, right? Just to be clear. It's not like if ETH goes to $1, we're going to pay $15,000 a year in dividends. That's a joke. Dollar equivalent at these prices. 1,000 ETH a week is around $25 million a year in dividends. Now, if you look at tech companies, and let's say for the ones that are paying divs, not all do, their annual dividend yield is 2-3%. Okay. That means if you take the reciprocal of dividend yield, which is dividend per share divided by price per share, it implies a market cap of roughly 30 to 50 times, okay, how much dividends they're paying. Let's take these maths to your question. If we're paying $25 million a year in dividends, we are looking at a valuation of our company of 30 to 50 times, which is somewhere around 700-800 million to 1.5 billion. I'm not talking about bullshit crypto valuations, right? Where projects that are run out of an RV are valued at $1 billion. I'm talking about real valuation, New York Stock Exchange list-worthy valuation. So you're asking, is it possible in the next 5 years? I'm telling you, probably not. Right? Sorry. Is there a small outside tail end chance? Yes. Are we aiming for that? Of course. Everyone wants to be a unicorn. Are we going to get there? We need to be realistic. I hope that answers your question. Neil Johnson is saying, our strategy has been to manage expectations and push out risk-averse forecasts. Have we planned if we go parabolic before your internal forecast? Yes, we have. We have planned for parabolic growth from a capacity standpoint, governance standpoint. In 3 months, I will say the governance standpoint will be ready. From a comms standpoint, certainly, yes. And most importantly, from a strategic standpoint. There are certain measures that a management team needs to take, a savvy team, if parabolic growth does happen. It has to do with exits, exit options, time value of money, and other things. So we have plans in place for that, but we're not there yet. Ravi's asking, Kay, do you see yourself retiring with Spectre? Or is this another stepping stone in your career? So Spectre is just it's a financial trading application. If you mean the DAO project, this entire project, then yes, I certainly will be retiring if and when this is a success. Okay, I have received a message that Hitesh has had to enter a marketing call. He's not on there. I still have some questions to get through, so I think we'll probably hold a Q&A at the next webinar for questions for Hitesh. Zio is telling me that he's just left the call, so. I see a question from Loris. Where does ETH Good question. Loris is asking, where does the ETH that we buy with cassette come from? That comes from Uphold, Loris. Check out Uphold. Fantastic company. And yes, you have fees. Depending on the amount you buy, I think you pay 3 to 5% one-off. So we suggest not buying continuously. Then again, I guess it depends. No, it's the same thing. Okay. Nicholas asking, when Blizzard? I don't know, Nicholas. Hopefully someday. Good question from Maximilian Kempa. How do you make sure no one is using bots in games will be published? It said some games will have to be downloaded, so I wonder if there's no possibility for gamers to trick those games. Or how will those be punished who use bots? Gamers need to be KYC'd if they're trading real money with us. Those are gambling laws. Every regulated gambling company requires basic KYC. Exuberant win rates sustained will result in red flags. That user's account will be investigated. They will be permanently banned for life and sued. Because they'll be breaching our terms of conditions with the consciously aware actions of gaming the system. So that's effectively perjury for us. And so we will go after them legally. We, of course, ban them. Most importantly, the maximum bet size in DApp versus $100. So the amount of damage that's going to happen to the DApp is absolutely minimal before we pick up on it and we just weed them out of the system. That's the non-algorithmic side. The algorithmic side is we have FPS checks, frame rate checks. There's a way to game games that people do in Game E quite often. They slow down the game. That we track that. We receive that data from inside the code. If it's happening just with one machine, we know there's a problem. Of course, it can be a weaker machine with a weak GPU and all of that. However, there are checks like that we do, which allow us to see if the game is being gamed as well. Good question from Maureen. Is there a possibility to have your own card from cassette? Yeah, so Uphold has their own credit card that they're issuing to clients, and you become a client of Uphold once you sign up to cassette. So the answer is yes. In theory, you can use the Uphold card to pay on ATMs and go to stores, but you'll need to check with them. Joachim D. Givit is asking, what about the full fiat version of Spectre? It's coming. Cassette is the bridge, and we will go full-blown fiat soon because we love centralization. Chris at Spectre, where did... Got a question from Homie. Do you think algorithmic sports betting is big? Yes, Homie, it's the biggest thing ever. Okay, I see a question from Dan Pierce. Do you talk about the 300 ETH per week include the special dividend? No, that excludes the special dividend. Good question, Dan. Hitesh, are you on right now? Okay, he is not on right now. He is on right now. So I'm going to let him communicate this message because I am spent. One sec, Hitesh. Hitesh?
Hey, can you hear me?
Hi, yes, the community is all yours. Everybody, can you hear Hitesh?
Perfect.
Yes, Hitesh, go ahead.
Awesome. Well, first of all, as always, it's great to be on a webinar with all of you guys. And Kay has done a great job so far, just walking through everything. I did want to touch on a couple of highlight points regarding what we've achieved so far. Keep in mind that we were in beta testing and bug fixing mode for much of this quarter anyway. So a lot of these results actually came in the last 45 days and especially in the last 20 days or so of the first quarter. our kind of structure for this new quarter for Q2 is actually going to be somewhat similar. We're going to work on some updates. Cassette is a very big one in that we're working on some things that are infrastructurally important for us to kind of do the same thing that we did in Q1, where we're going to do some stuff. We're going to put the right things in place, and then we're going to kind of blow up in the second half of this Q2 as well. That's kind of the structure that we are working with, that we're focused on. In terms of some of the questions that were asked before regarding Dapverse and some of the gaming side of things, I have some very strong contacts in the gaming side. We are in talks with a very large gaming company, a company that you guys would all recognize immediately, and some very large gaming communities as well. And there is definitely very good interest there. There's definitely very good, that's a very good space to be in. In terms of what we are planning on doing with the token side and all the things that Kay has just touched upon, whether we will have affiliate program there or not, a lot of that is kind of built in with the Spectre side already. Given that we already have an affiliate program here, we already have a very aggressive affiliate program actually, and the fact that we are kind of using Spectre's trading platform as the conduit to bring all the new users in and kind of build off of that. I really don't think that we would need a separate affiliate program for each of these things down the road. But if we do, we are always open to it. That's one of the benefits of having, a lot of this development being done in-house. And just to echo some of the things that Kay said, this space has been kind of getting decimated over the last 2 months. So the fact that we've been able to achieve the goals that we have and actually surpass our declared goals during a time period when the cryptocurrency world overall has been somewhat reeling with a lot of failures is actually a really good sign. And I'm very hopeful that as we move things through Cassette, we'll actually be able to pull in a lot more on the fiat side and do a lot more from a marketing perspective than we have been able to do even so far. And in Kay, if you don't mind, if you want to right click on me and make organizer, I can actually read the questions and I can answer them. That way you don't have to read them out for me.
Yeah, sure. Just give me 1 second. The only question, in fact, guys, Hitesh, how much time do you have right now?
I have about 5 more minutes.
Okay, does anyone have any questions specifically for Hitesh? Hitesh, do you want to give a quick update on the drop shipping thing, or is that something that we should let gestate and have a webinar for that later?
I think we should do a webinar on that later because okay. I can give some background information really quickly while you are looking for questions for me. Essentially, this is a large company that they've actually done a lot of. In fact, they've just entered into an official contract with eBay, an actual official contract, not just an application that works with eBay, but eBay is actually paying the company. So there's a lot of very solid developments there. However, there's currently, before this company enters into the cryptocurrency space and works with a tokenized model, and if they enter and work with a tokenized model, it's going to be working in partnership with Spectre. They currently have a couple private offers on the table, and that's kind of where their process is. But we are quite hopeful right now that should they enter the space, which looks to be pretty significant odds that they will enter the space. If they do, that's actually one of the really strong applications that we will be able to have DApp participating in to some extent. And actually, some of the technology that we already have here on the Spectre side might be an overlapping technology that can be used with them as well. So this is a company that's approaching $4 billion in total GMV, which is gross merchandising volume that's been done by their users. They are looking to take on a section, an audience that represents about $28 billion per annum in total GMV right now. And they're trying to do that with a tokenized model in some ways very similar to what Spectre has done with a dividend token, a utility token, and so on. So it is a very, very positive development if it's to happen. But when we have more details and it is closer to occurring, that's when we will actually be able to do a special webinar, kind of walk you guys through the entire project and explain why we believe it's such a good fit for the DApp and what the benefits of every token holder will be if we are able to pull that off.
Thank you for that, Hitesh. Last call for questions for Hitesh before he has to jump off. There is a question in general regarding Dapverse, if it's going to be for desktop. The answer is yes. The actual Dapverse itself is web-based, but many applications are download as well. We also have Atul on the call. Atul and Hitesh have been working very hard to deliver growth. And so if you have any questions for them, now is the last time or last chance to ask before we close this webinar. Okay, there's a question from Nicholas Sadko for you, Hitesh. Hitesh, with white labeling nearing completion, have you had any solid interest, and when do you expect the first white label? This is in
Yes.
reference to Spectre. Sorry.
So we have actually already received very strong interest. In fact, one of the strong interests that we have is from a company that I have very close contact with. Kay is very familiar with them as well. That would actually result in us being able to accept US people as well. So that would actually solve two very significant problems if that is to happen. We have had very, very strong interest on the white labeling side. We have spoken with at least, I would say at this point, there are 9 very serious clients that we have spoken with that would like to take on the white label side. As you know, between ESMA and the destruction that happened in the whole Israeli binary options marketplace and so on, there are a lot of people who are looking at us as kind of their salvation, as their means of getting back in business in a very legitimate manner. So there is a lot of interest. I hesitate to give any timelines on this. Like Kay has mentioned, we are very careful, conservative people when it comes to public timelines. Once the white label is completely ready and we have tested it, it's something that will just happen, right? It'll happen naturally. So for me to assign a timeline to it doesn't really make any real difference at this moment. I think it's better for us to just do it the right way. And when it happens, we will announce it as it is happening. Overall, we expect it to be either towards the tail end of this quarter or the beginning of the next quarter.
Okay, thank you for that, Hitesh. Okay, Hitesh, I will let you go. You're already 10 minutes late. I do apologize for that. And this is the last call for general questions before we wrap it up, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hitesh. Yeah, Nicholas, that's correct. So we're going to offer the white label to anybody, as long as they don't take US traders. Because the KYC, again, is handled by our teams, right? So it's basically like Spectre, just with different branding. Thanks, Tone, Paul, Chris. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for the feedback. I see a question for Atul from Nicholas Satko as well, but I'm not sure if Atul is still on the call. Yes, Atul is on the call. Let me just see if I can patch him in. I'm not sure if his mic is on. Just 1 second. Okay. Atul, can you hear me?
Hi, Kay. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. Okay, good. Atul, we have a question for you from Nicholas Satko. He's asking, how did Atul get on in South Africa?
Yeah. So we had the reception was really good. It was an introductory seminar which we had, which was targeted towards traders and affiliates, and the brand was really well received with a lot of enthusiasm, and we certainly plan to further penetrate into that region during Q2 and Q3. I'm expecting to have some videos of the actual event and of the interview that was done over there as well. And as soon as we've got it, we will be publishing it onto the social channel as well.
Thank you, Atul, for that. Okay. All right. Neil is asking on a score from 1 to 10, how happy are you with Spectre's progress? I'd say 5 out of 10, Neil. When weekly revos or devos hit, let's say 30 to 50 a week, that's when things will really start to get exciting. Until there, we're all glasses half empty type of people here, so we're not going to get excited right now. It would be moronic, it would be comical for us to get excited at these levels. Although other token projects get excited by the smallest of things, it's all about the numbers. So at 50 ETH, we'll get excited. Great. I see no further questions. I thank you all for your attendance today. Thank you, Hitesh, Anatol as well. We will update you next, maybe around 4 to 6 weeks from now. Of course, if there's a product launch in the middle, you'll have an update there. And the next formal update would be then in October. So July, August, September is our Q2. It's already begun. And then middle of October, we will give you a far more detailed webinar like this as well. Okay. Have a lovely time.